Go. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia, otherwise known as the Wandering Quill and the Wandering Scribe, and I am excited to present to you all today's guest for the month of July. Now, my guest today is first generation American with roots in Lebanon, Greece, Spain, and Germany. And after losing his best friend in 2011, my guest turned to writing as a way to heal, never expecting it would lead to a full-blown urban fantasy series. And in his early 20s, he was a sponsored rollerblader, a signed musician, and a second-degree black belt. These days, he writes global clinical education for an orthodontic medical device company by day and crafts cocktails, cooks up new recipes, and builds fantasy worlds by night. His stories are shaped by grit, grief, and unshakable belief in the magic of friendship. Expect bright, bold worlds packed with celestial warfare, epic fight scenes, bar crawls, and food that'll make you drool. He's the author of Maximus, Eros, and now the Seraphic Beginning prequel novels, tales filled with angels, rebels, and the wild nights that shaped them. His stories are inspired by the people he loved most and the belief that even in the darkest moments, there's always a spark worth chasing. So without further ado, let's give a huge round of applause to today's guest, author Christoph Shamoun. Christoph, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Gabriel.
Awesome, Christoph. I am so excited to have you here. Now, before we dive deep into your novels, is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
I have another novel coming out August 15th.
Oh, nice. Very, very nice. That perfectly segues into the next question, Christoph. Without giving too much away, what can you tell us about your series of novels?
Okay. So let me start with Maximus, and then I'll go into Michael, the prequel.
All
so
right.
my female main character, Cecilia White, she's gifted an angel key by her father. It's an ancient relic that awakens her to a hidden world where angels and demons are at war. She's protected by the fallen angel Christoph Maximus and his best friend Eric, and her fierce companion Evie. Cecilia is thrust into a battle that could rewrite the fate of heaven itself, and that's what makes it so dramatic. So Maximus, the Key to Heaven, if you can kind of summarize it, it's a fast-paced urban fantasy filled with celestial warfare, found family, and a romance written in the stars.
Oh, I like that. I absolutely like that. And by the way, Christoph, you're probably now, what is it, the fourth author I've had on the show now that's had with angels and demons. And I'm like, there's no way we authors could think of the same way. I kid you not. There were two other authors earlier this year who wrote very similar stories. And I'm just blown away. It's like, we can't all be part of a hive mind, can we?
I think we're all part of the same generation that was inspired by Buffy the Vampire Slayer and shows like Charmed. Those kinds of shows just kind of I don't know, stayed in our subconscious and inspired us to come back out with these different stories. I really loved urban fantasy growing up, and I just felt like it was, I don't know, it just felt like if you could be in any world that wasn't such a far leap, I'm not going to go find myself in Aragon or Star Wars. I just feel like that's not likely. But an urban fantasy kind of winds everything together and makes it feel like this could be real. This could happen. And that's where angels and demons fall in, because we those who are Catholic or Jewish, they grew up with these stories in church and things like that, and so those things are normal to you. You're like, oh, okay, angels and demons, they're somewhere out there. Maybe it's not too far of a leap for it to be real on paper. So I don't know. I feel like we all kind of grew up with that same I don't know, subconscious idea ingrained in us that when we got out there and started writing, it just manifested on our papers.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, before we dive into Maximus and the other novels, let's talk a little bit more about you, Christoph. So you've done a wide range of things. You are a jack of many trades. So I'm just curious, as you mentioned before, growing up with, Charmed, seeing Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and a bunch of other shows, and possibly reading a lot of other urban fantasy books, is it safe to say that you are a very creative person, or this creativity sort of came about later in your life?
No, I've been like this for a long time. I feel like a lot of people that were diagnosed with ADHD when they were younger didn't realize that it just meant that your brain moved faster than your mouth could move.
Right.
And growing up, we kind of learned how to like juggle those things. I learned it through mixed martial arts. My father is a
Oh,
sensei,
okay.
and he put me in when I was 8 years old. So I was just kind of forced to learn to find places for everything, find ways to organize things just through sheer discipline. And so whenever I find something and I start doing it, it's just ingrained in me that I have to commit until it's done. And then the ADHD part comes in where I hyper focus on that thing. And
Mm.
that's where world building comes in. That's where creating presentations for orthodontics comes in. That's where creating cocktails and creating recipes comes from. And whenever I'm training, that's where building lesson plans comes from. It's just, it sparks and it's there. I have a very analytical mind, but also
Mm.
creative mind. So I find the problem and can develop the solution. And
Awesome.
that's just how I am.
All right, all right. Now, what would you say, in your opinion, was your definitive aha moment when you wanted to take all these stories, your passion for creativity, and build a career from it and build your brand as an author?
Um, all right. I mean, I started writing my senior year of high school with like a close friend. His name was Gershon Reynolds. He's also a published author. We were working on like a short film script just for fun. And it was the
Okay,
first time like ever that I took writing seriously. But like, once I got to college, life kind of like pulled me in other directions and I forgot all about that.
right.
My real aha moment, it came in 2012. I woke up at 3 a.m. from like a dream that was so vivid, I had to write it down or, risk losing it. And it was like a simple scene. It was just me and my best friend, Eric, who passed away a few months prior.
Mhm.
And in the dream, we were like behind a bar, we owned a club, we were making cocktails and dancing like idiots to impress some girls. And I knew right then and there, I needed to build a world where I could see him again, where I could spend time with him again, where we could be us again. And, somewhere we could always meet. And that world became Maximus. I never had this vision of writing and selling books. It was just a coping mechanism for me
Mhm.
that turned into, I need to put this out there because I want other people to be able to experience this. I want other people to share in my world and remember my friend. And then it turned into, I have people that actually enjoy my books, that have questions and they want to know more about my characters and they want to know what happens next, why I ended things the way that I did. And it kind of made me think, all right, now I actually have to go all in. And
Mhm.
that's where Eros came from. And that's where Michael came from. And that's where my next book, The Elites, came from. And that's going to be probably it for Maximus for a while, for Seraphic novels. But I have something out there that's going to be really fun, where I am building an entirely new world aside from that, where I'm going to take on music and magic. So
Ooh, fascinating, fascinating. And now, probably tying into your books, I'm very curious, Christoph. Do you consider yourself an author who writes with an outline in mind, or do you just write how the story feels to you? A panzer or a plotter, so to speak. And do you have a routine or ritual you do as a writer? Do you write in the morning for a certain period of time? Are you a night owl? Do you like to write at night? Or do you not have a ritual or routine?
I I don't know if I have a ritual or routine. That's really interesting. I write when I feel like I want to write. I write when I'm feeling inspired. Like I haven't touched my music and magic book in maybe 3 months. But the other books, I'll go back and I'm like, all right, I got some ideas. I want to fine tune them. I actually am putting out a special edition of Maximus coming out September 15th, and it's going to be a re-edited Maximus with extended scenes and new chapters, and it's going to be amazing. But like I felt like I needed to write that, and so that's what inspired me. So I just kind of write when I feel it. When I'm feeling sad, I write sad scenes. When I'm feeling happy, I write happy scenes. When I'm feeling like a foodie, I go back and I write in my foodie scenes. I mean, I'm a chef and a mixologist by trade, so just those are the things that inspire me, and that's why I write and when I write, because I'm feeling inspired. So yeah, if you're feeling inspired, put it down on paper. Never force yourself to write. Just like, like, think of the business world. You never go into an office or you go into a meeting if you're feeling like shit. Like, yes, you have to, but you have to be very careful of what you say and do. And you always perform best when you're feeling that mood, feeling yourself. So I don't know if that's the best advice I can give. Write when you feel it. Write what you feel.
That's actually a really good piece of advice, Christoph. Thank you. So when you began writing down, let's go back to the beginning. So when you were sitting at your desk and writing down the first book in this series of novels of yours, what were your goals going into it as the author? And then in the midst of writing, what was sort of your promise you were making to not only yourself, but your future readers, not only in the book you were working at the time, but your other books that came after?
Okay. So I started writing chapter, and then I wanted to get to know my characters better. So I wrote out what each character was like, what their likes were. That's kind of answering your question from earlier about my process. And then I started knowing who these characters were at the core. I was able to start writing chapters based on like what I felt. So I came up with an outline, of course, and I had an idea of how I wanted the story to go, where I wanted things to go. But of course, outlines are meant to be changed.
Yes,
absolutely. So as I started writing like scenes based on feeling, I was like, oh, that goes here. It didn't exist before, but now it goes here. And now I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to tie this in. And you do those things until like you have like a true first, like strong outline and a true first rough draft. And you're gonna rewrite things a million times, but that's the fun part, seeing how things go together, playing with different themes, playing with different ideas, trying new things, changing old things, and getting what you really wanted to build. You were asking about how I got into the other books. So to answer that question, I saw what I did in Maximus and Eros, and I thought there are things that I really enjoyed about this that I want to build upon. So that's where A Maximum's Bartender's Guide came from. Been creating cocktails since I was, I don't know, 20, before I was even legally allowed to drink. And I really just enjoy flavors. So I was like, all right, people are going to read this and they're going to be like, wow, I want to taste that. Let me help you out. Let me write how that's made. Let me give you a step-by-step guide on how that's made. And I wrote scenes in my books about, Max teaching Cecilia how to make cocktails and telling her what's in cocktails. And in Eros, Eric was really passionate about food. So he's a chef. And I wrote a companion guide called A Hips and Hearts Cookbook based on the restaurants that he made. And I put in those recipes, and I love cooking. I learned to cook when I was 25, and I've been getting better at it every year. And all those recipes and all those menus that I put together for fun were an opportunity to be like, all right, let me make menus from the different scenes in the book. And on those menus, I'm going to make different chapters about or not really chapters, but different recipes that follow the menu to the T. And then I'm going to tuck in other things in the end, just fun things that maybe won't fit into that book, but are like, surprise, here are more cocktails, here are more dishes. You didn't expect it, but there it is. And then Michael, the prequel, that was just, I didn't expect to have readers and followers that were going to get invested in it to the point where they were asking me questions about what happens next. Have you ever watched The Fault in Our Stars?
Not all the way through to the end.
God, it's heartbreaking. But there's this author that she's obsessed with, and she has all these questions about the book and why it ended the way it did and all these things, and she asks him, and that's all she wants to know. And I always felt he was such a dick for not answering those questions, and I figured it just kind of, I needed to do this. And that's why I wrote Michael. Michael is the story about how the archdukes were, before they were archdukes. What were they like as archangels? What was a young Christoph Maximus, this Ceruleus Maximus like? A young Eros, Sam and Darius, what were they like? Why is Michael such a dick? Like, you need to know these things. And it gave me a chance to have fun and write things and even experiment with other like tropes that I've never done before. Never written anything spicy in my life. And I don't know, my readers really like the spice that I wrote in Michael. So it's something exciting to look forward to.
Awesome.
I know I went on a tangent, bro. I am so sorry.
No, that actually was really good. That actually was perfect, because that actually leads to some fan questions that I want to ask you, Christoph. So one of my viewers wanted to ask, out of all of your books, what has been your favorite scene to write? And what has probably been, this is actually, it's a two-parter. So what has been your favorite theme to incorporate in your novels?
Found family is my favorite theme to incorporate in novels. I wrote these books for my friends, based off my friends, and I wanted to just really capture that. And I feel like I did a good job of it, because that's the feedback that I get from readers of my books, that they want to know like what inspired me and why these characters are the way they are. And it's just, these are my friends. These are the people that I loved most in my life, and I wanted to make found family and friendship and love a huge part of my books, and that's what I did. What was the other part of your question?
The first part was, out of all of the scenes you've written in all of your novels, what has been your favorite scene to write?
Cecilia's birthday in Eros.
Okay.
I think it was just something Eric would have done, or I would have done with Eric, to plan a birthday party for her. And all the things that we did, all the fun places that we went to when we were younger. I write about real places in New York because I want people to read it and feel like it's real. So I'm including adventures. Like, you're not going to find my Bushwick Turtle races unless you know a guy who knows a guy. But you can go to Fig 19, the art gallery on Chrysler, and you can go in through that secret door behind the painting on the back left. And you can go into Fig 19 yourself and get a blackberry jalapeno mojito, or sorry, blackberry jalapeno margarita. And it is perfect. It is just a delicious cocktail. You can go to the taqueria at St. Mark's Place, and you'll have the best freaking tacos. Right now, like living in California, I've become like a big snob about tacos. And that is the only place I can think of in New York City that tastes authentic.
Okay. All right.
What else? La Caverna. You want to go dance in a cave on Essex Street and Bauer? I don't remember the name of that street, but the intersection of that street, it's at the back of my book. You can go dance in a cave. It's so fun. And if you want, you go to start at Beauty in Essex, you can end there. But those are like the fun things, those real like wild nights, those planned like bar crawls, those that delicious food, those incredible cocktails. All of that is real, and it's so fun to write. And I just love to just paint a scene of people having fun and doing like fun things and being like unregrettably authentically themselves. And that was one of those scenes that I wrote, and I'm really proud of it. And it was so fun doing it. I wish I could do it again. And I think I am going to do it again for my music and magic book.
Awesome. Okay. All right. And this actually perfectly leads into another series of questions. So, as authors, I'm sure you definitely agree that when we embark on a new journey, on a new adventure, and we are so ingrained in our world building and our storytelling, we want to share with our friends and family. But as I've talked to a lot of authors on this show, there is that hesitancy to share at least the rough version. Sometimes as authors who have been on the show have said, they wait until the very end when it's published that they let them know, yeah, I've been working on this book for a very, very long time. So for you, Christoph, at what point in your writer's journey did you feel comfortable sharing with friends and family that you were working on these books?
Around chapter 5. Yeah, when I first started writing Maximus, it was around chapter 5. I wanted to talk to Jen, and I wanted to talk to Sam and Darius about how I was capturing the characters in the book. If I was being true to, our friends, true to their authentic selves. And so I wanted to get that feedback. When it came to Eros, I wanted to make sure that Eric's mom got a copy before anybody else. And when I was writing the cookbooks and the cocktail, the bartender's guide, I want my friends to taste them. So I'm very big, as you can tell, on friendship and family. It's everything to me. I care what my friends and family think more than anything, and not in a bad way. I think of it as in a good way, because their feedback helps me be better. So of course I'm going to share it with them early. That's how I write. So I'm not, I guess in that way, I'm not like the other writers.
That's actually very true. And it's actually very good that I think, we as authors, we have our own pace and our own journey and a certain point in our own lives that we feel comfortable sharing, because it is a vulnerable thing to do when we write. It is, in a way, starting off a very lonely experience before we get our team of editors, beta readers, and sometimes narrators. It's just us, and it can be very vulnerable and kind of intimidating. Which leads to another fan question before we get to some of the reflective questions, Christoph. In your opinion, as an author, what do you think is the most challenging part of writing a book, or in this case, a series of novels that follows a linear story?
I didn't find it hard. I feel like if I was less organized, yes, I would find it hard, but I really felt like the bios that I made of my characters and truly knowing my characters made it easier for me. What I'm doing right now with the music and magic books, the same thing. I needed to make sure I knew who those characters were, what drove them, what made them happy, what made them sad, what inspired them, what, shattered them. And in order to do that, it truly just it took a lot of like myself opening up and figuring out like and exploring like what different personalities were. But because I did that, because I took that journey, it didn't scare me to write and to continue and to figure out what came next. I've changed my outline so many times, but I've never changed my characters. My characters are who they are and they stay who they are. And if you're able to do that, it should make the writing experience a lot more comfortable.
All right, perfect. And on the topic of characters, how did you sort of develop and create your main characters and the side characters in terms of like, feeling authentic to the world that they're in? And were there other inspirations to the characters? I know you said before that you looked at a lot of different tropes. So I imagine you looked at different archetypes for characters, or maybe a specific person in media. How did you create your characters to feel authentic to the stories that you wanted to tell?
So the main core of the characters' personalities are based off my friends. I write what I know. Sam is the way Sam is. Darius is hilarious and tough and scary, but he's a big softy. He's a big teddy bear underneath. That's who he is as a person. Eric he was the angel of love and mischief. That's who he was. He was a big romantic, huge heart, but he loved playing pranks. And that's just, I mean, based on that, that's how I wrote those characters. I wrote them after the people I knew and the people I loved. So it's a little bit different in there. If I can talk more about like exploring something outside of Maximus, like the music and magic book, I would say that I still base people off of my friends. Like in that book, my main character, Camden, he is based off of me. And he's based off of my nephew, and he's based off of Eric, and he's just all the best parts of the people and the worst parts of the people that I love just make this truly authentic character.
Nice.
And I don't know, that's how I build characters, and that's how I stick to my stories.
Awesome. That's actually very cool and very rare that, when I've had authors answer this question, very rarely have I found an author who's pretty much said that, I base off what I know, they're based off my friends, my family. Sometimes they'll say, oh, like an aspect of them or like a piece of them. But as you said, Christoph, like your friends are like truly the characters in your story. Like, the name may be changed a little different, their nature and who they are is, the same exactly. And I think that probably plays a very personal role for your readers, that they feel that connection. And that's something that we're going to be touching on later in the interview when we talk about, understanding our audience and our readership when it comes to the business side. But now, as opposed to the reflective questions, these ones I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on, Christoph. So the first one, as authors, especially now in the digital age, again, that experience of like, that vulnerability, that anxiety, it can build up inside of us because as authors in the digital age, it's a double-edged sword. Social media is a huge tool for us, but it can also be a tool used against us. We can meet our fans, fellow readers, fellow authors, and network. But on the other side, we do leave ourselves exposed to a lot of hate speech, trolls, negativity, and that can be very detrimental to an author's mental health. And also, imposter syndrome is always going to be there. And I think it's even heightened with social media. So, for you in your journey, Christoph, have you ever had those moments of heightened anxiety during your writer's journey? And I know you mentioned earlier in the beginning that you write when you feel like, inspired or you have that creative spark. But what has disciplined you to continue telling this story from Maximus, Eros, Michael, and the other stories you have in the works? What has kept you grounded?
I want to say I just like to explore the ideas and push things until I finish them. I mean, you mentioned social media earlier and how that can cause anxiety. It is so hard to promote yourself. It's so hard to figure out like how to create content and what the right message is to send somebody to ask them if they want to read your book. And
Mhm.
and it's difficult to be like rejected too. So it is an interesting way to navigate the digital world, as you kind of said it earlier. And I'm still figuring that out. I did
Same.
recently grow like an extra 1,000 followers recently in the last couple of months, but that's all thanks to the generous people that I've met on there, the kind people. I don't
Mhm.
have negative experiences on there because I try to stay as authentic as I possibly can be. And as long as I stay authentic, that tends to be like the best way to do things. Um,
Nice.
and I don't know. And in trying to stay disciplined and keeping to the writing, um, I know that I had asked this before. Oh, sorry, I'd answered this before, but it's just, yeah. If you have ideas you want to explore them. If you decide not to put them out there, don't put them out there. But write because it makes you happy, and that's
Mhm.
what I'm doing. And so I have a story that I wrote about Evie and Eric on winter break, and I haven't put it out, and I just don't feel good about it yet.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to put it out. You put out what you feel good about, and then you won't have a problem. You know,
Yes.
you edit the way you want to say. You want to change things, dude. It's your story. Do what you want. Do what makes you happy. So that's
Very
what I
true.
do. I went and I re-edited and rewrote so many huge parts in Maximus. I'm gonna send you a copy, by the way, just so you have like the newer version.
All
um,
right.
it's and I'm proud of it now. Like in the beginning, I was a little like, you know, I really wanted to get it out there. I really want to get my story out there and share it with my friends because I've been working on it for such a long time. And when I did put it out there, I reread it a few times. I was like, ooh, because I got better at writing. You evolve as a writer. And I feel like that's the one difference between being an indie author and being a traditionally published author is you can say, fuck you. I'm going to go change that right now because I want to change it. Whereas the publishers will be like, are you kidding? How unprofessional can you be to try to take that back and re-edit your book? Dude, I do whatever I want. It's my book, And that's the cool thing about being an indie author that I really like. Again, you're writing because it's what you want to write. If you feel like you're not happy about it, then change it. If you don't want to write it anymore, stop writing it. You can always write something else. But again, as always, write because it makes you happy.
100% agree, Christoph. 100% agree. And the next reflective question, which I think this is a very important one, is to talk about whether or not we're in a golden age or a pseudo dark age. And the context behind this question is that a lot of authors that I've talked to on this show have all agreed that the COVID years, the lockdown years became a breeding ground for new authors, for new voices. Even beyond authors, you had new artists, new editors, narrators emerged during the lockdown, and it's just exploded. And that's really good. That's incredible that there's new voice, new talent in the indie world. But this has grown, or rather created, a debate of whether or not, because of the lockdown years, we're in a golden age. Some say that we are, some say that we're in more of a renaissance. But then other people have said that we're in neither. There are new voices in the world, new works, new stories. A majority of those stories were not created with the sole intent of, what's the word I'm thinking of? Heightening the scholarship or heightening the craft of writing. They were just written to exist in the void. And on this notion of the dark age, of course, AI in the publishing world seeping in either writing books, editing books, or if you're a narrator, voicing books, sometimes taking your own voice without your permission, which that leads into a whole other discussion. Yeah, Christoph, that's the case, and I've talked to a lot of people on this. So ultimately, Christoph, in your opinion, seeing the trend change or seeing the industry grow, do you believe that we are in a dark age or in like a renaissance, or are we somewhere in the middle? Or
I'm not gonna label it. It's too wide. Like, all right, there's gold and there's dark. Like, so I guess I'm gonna say that we're in the middle because we have to label it, and I'm gonna be saying there's a gold and there's a dark. That is truly middle ground. And the reason why I do say this is it is gold because now anyone can become an author. Yes. Now anyone can become a voice actor. You can go put yourself on Audible and set your rates and do fun things that you couldn't do before because we weren't in a truly digital age. It was so inaccessible. It was such a tight place to get into. But now social media has taken over the freaking world in the scariest way possible. That a gentleman out there who was on a reality TV show said he read Sarah J. Maas, who I love. She's freaking golden. He read these books, and now he has an idea he's been exploring for a few weeks, and he's got already a signed book deal because of his followers, because of who he is on social media, because of his presence. And that is terrifying. What it was when I was younger, when I first started writing Maximus, I was on this site called Autonomy. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I was ranked #1 on Autonomy for Maximus for 50 days straight. And I have screenshots of all those movers and shakers #1 because it made me feel freaking golden. You cannot do that anymore. You can't get there. You can't get an author deal because you're a good writer. It's about who you know. It's your social media presence, how you have to have your own brand going in, and that's terrifying. Yeah, you can submit your thing and hope to God that they decide, oh, that book title sounds badass. Let me give it a read. But it's really difficult to get your book on that editor's desk for consideration. And because of social media, it's become increasingly harder. So like one of my favorite booktubers that got me into reading, Christine Riccio, she's brilliant. She's an incredible writer too. That's the that is the one-off, you know? You don't
Mhm.
get that every day. The other people that are writers, who knows? There are probably better writers out there
Absolutely.
that got book deals. Like and those indie authors, they never got a chance, but they want interesting because it's a golden age in the way that anyone can become an author. Anyone can go out there and put themselves on the line without a publisher, you know? Like, you know, in music, that guy Jake,
Yes.
JVKE, he's beautiful. I've never heard anyone make more beautiful music before. Like the kid's brilliant, but like, you know, he doesn't have a label.
No, I did not.
He's selling out concerts, booking all around the world, making incredible music and money off of Spotify and iTunes downloads, and he doesn't have anybody. This is because of COVID. This is because like the golden opportunity that was created that anyone can go out there and become a musician, anyone can go out there and become an author. It's because of that. So yeah, we're in the dark age that like traditional, like becoming a traditional author is completely maxed out because you need your own following. But we're in a golden age where anyone can become an author, anyone can go out there and self-promote without the need of a traditional publisher or a traditional label.
You know, that's actually a very different perspective to this answer, which I very, very like, Christoph, because I never really thought of it like that. But you're absolutely right, and it is very true. And this actually perfectly segues into now the business side of being an author. So, as a little icebreaker, as well as another fan question, what was the most surprising part about the publishing process for you as an indie author?
Um, uh, I want to say it wasn't the publishing process that I had a problem with. It was figuring out how to create the proper arc team, how to create
Oh,
the
yeah.
right messaging. The business aspect of promoting yourself is so freaking hard if you've never done it before. Like,
Mhm.
like in the professional world, I am one of the top lingual specialists in the country, and I can sell my ass off. But when it came to like stepping out of professional education and going into writing and figuring out how to do that, I don't think I have it in me anymore at the age of 38 to like make make those exciting videos and talk about my book the way they do. Like I'm so happy that you asked me to be on this because it gives me opportunity to like break that seal and maybe put myself out a little bit more. But like it's tough, Gabe. It's
It
tough.
is.
Like I didn't know how to make a book release box, and my book release box for Eros was beautiful. I was so proud of it. But then social media broke my heart because other people are out there making these boxes way better than mine and way cooler than mine. And I didn't know that you can buy a box and get art on it. I didn't know that you could, you know, make different like little things that you can ship in it. And also it's the cost factor of self-promotion
Right.
that is ridiculous. Like you have to save and save and save before book release because you need X amount of ARC readers to be able to create the initial hype for you. And you need to create like a nice package to send them because most of these people are doing this for free and they're just good human beings. And you want to make it a good experience. It's freaking hard. It's hard making a good experience, but like I had fun doing it and I was really blessed. I have this friend named Kristen on there. I think her Instagram's at Which Book Next. She's phenomenal. She gave me all this great advice of things I could put in my box. And I have my original editor, Tegan, who I met on Autonomy, which was run by HarperCollins. She's phenomenal. She helped me edit Maximus the first time. And she gave me ideas of what I could do too. She also helped me make these custom bookmarks for Eros,
Ooh.
the Eros release. They're on my link tree. And they're freaking stunning, dude. And I gave that away along with my book and along with some printed like artwork. And I also created a merch store, but I don't know how to like connect the merch store because my following's not that big. I'm like just hitting 1,500. But I'm trying super hard to see what other authors are doing, what inspired them, and how they got themselves out there. But I think the biggest one is creating good arc team and creating that content that's going to get people to notice your page. Because again, like your self-promotion and those things are like what get people to read your book. You can have an awesome cover, you can have a great book, but it doesn't matter unless, you know, someone speaks positively about it. Like, you know, Sarah J. Maas can go put out a book under a completely different title tomorrow and self-publish it herself, and no one will know about it. No one will know about that amazing book she wrote. You know, Cassie Clare can put out stories, which she's done on Wattpad, and it takes a while for them to blow up because they don't know it's her.
That is very true, Christoph. That is very, very true. The amount of stress we indie authors have to go through, you know, building a team, finding our editors. Because right, it's absolutely true. We do control the creative rights of our stories, which is always the plus and like the biggest selling point. But it's all on us. We have to find our editors and pay for them. We have to find cover artists and pay for them. We have to, you know, gather a team of people that we also trust for beta readers and ARC readers. And it's not just as, you know, friends and family, but fellow authors and fellow readers that you trust them, that they're going to give you an honest review, an honest feedback, but also give you, you know, places to improve upon. And that leads into another fan question, which is, for you, Christoph, how do you handle criticism and negative reviews?
I haven't got one yet, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, how about reviews or critiques in general?
So I was part of the North Bergen County Writers Guild. My friend Ray Muniz, who is in my book, who I dedicated Michael to, he founded it with me. And I do well with that because I take it as constructive criticism. Also, I mean, people that go out there and just say your writing sucks and your book sucks and your characters suck and don't have those things, you can't take that to heart because they're just being trolls, man. But if someone's like, hey, I really wish that there was more like character development for Cecilia, shit, I'm gonna go take my book. I'm gonna build some more character, bro. I'm gonna make sure, because you gotta, don't look at the negative, like look at the positive. Hey, someone thinks this can be better. I didn't see it before, but now I see it. Let me go do it. Let me go do that. You know? So I haven't gotten negative feedback on a review that's been posted, which is really freaking nice. And I really hope to God that doesn't happen to me. But if it does, I'm going to try to read through it. And if it's not a troll and it's someone being honest, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it in a good way. I want to make something positive out of a negative review.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And on the topic of, you know, our audience, I think it's probably another thing that is important to talk about is understanding our audience. And some of us as authors, the audience can be very different. Sometimes it's the target audience for our books, in the case, you know, like urban fantasy, but sometimes it could be specific readers like us who enjoy these types of stories. So for you, Christoph, when you began marketing your stories on social media, did you market to your target audience or your specific readership? And do you have a good idea of either or from the beginning of your journey to now?
Yeah, I think I marketed to my target audience. I wanted to get people that liked the books that I liked to read it. So I followed a lot of people that were liking books that I liked. You know, I've read like 600 books, man. I have a huge bookshelf in my room of fantasy, urban fantasy, and I know who those authors are. So I follow them. I see who comments on their stuff. I like BookTube. BookTube was great. I mean, Christine Riccio is the best. Poland Banana Books 20. That's one of my favorites. That, God, she inspired me to read so many good books, like the Lux novels by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I was into Cassandra Clare, and that's how I found her, because I read the first Mortal Instruments book and the first Infernal Devices book, and I was like, what comes next? And I Googled it, and she popped up with one of her videos, and I started watching it. I'm going off on a tangent now. I'm so sorry. But
no, you're all good.
But yeah, what was your question again?
Which was do you when you began marketing your books, did you market to your target audience or your readership? And from the beginning of your journey to now, do you have a good idea of who that is?
Yes. Okay. So yeah, in the beginning I thought I knew who it was, and now I do know who it is. But I've been finding that people that also like romance are into my books, which is kind of cool. And I'm finding that people that are into action are also reading my books. Like I have a lot more guy readers than I thought I was gonna have. I thought that's awesome. My fight scenes I'm a secondary black belt, and in mixed martial arts, not karate, mixed martial arts. So like I write like I'm actually fighting, you know? And I feel like guys resonate with that. And I'm not writing like characters like they're just Prince Charming. They're raw characters, and they say vulgar things. And Max curses like a sailor sometimes. And guys are reading it too. Even if it has romance, even if it's corny, guys are enjoying it. So I mean, I'm surprised with who my audience is. But I feel like at the core value, it's people that like the things that I liked, that liked Buffy, that like Supernatural, like Charmed,
Right.
that love Cassandra Clare, that like Rick Riordan, that enjoyed Jennifer Armentrout's character development. I mean, douche canoe is still one of my favorite things to say, thanks to that woman. Yeah, I think I know who my audience is now, and it's grown, but like I got a good understanding.
Awesome. Now, on that topic, which I think is also a very interesting one, so for urban fantasy, when you approach it, how do you blend the realism of the world that you're creating with the fantasy elements? Because I know for each genre, and the reason I bring this up is that when we write for a genre, there's an expectation that readers are looking for because they already have an idea of how a story is going to go based upon the few tropes or the clicks that a story may have. So for you, Christoph, how do you blend realism and fantasy in your stories? And what has sort of been like the challenging aspect of that to where you're finding your voice or showcasing your voice in a way where you want to show your individuality as an author, but you are also understanding the genre that you're in and the expectation of your readers and your audience?
I have watched and read so much urban fantasy, it's probably disgusting. So I kind of knew how it was blended in with multiple different books, and I had to come up with a true magic system and like fantasy system to understand how I was going to blend it in. So like, for example, if you're an angel,
Right.
your wings hold endless power. They
Okay.
continuously generate power. But when your wings get cut off, all you have left is the magic in your veins. And when you burn that out, there's nothing left. So
Okay.
that's how my fallen angels function. They use blood magic, their golden ichor, to power themselves and give them back the magic that they had. But they only got so much angel blood, bro.
Yeah.
So at the end of Maximus, when Max has to fight Azazel, that's like you really truly understand, like he's not who he used to be. Like he's not the Max that was in Michael. He can't do those things that he did, and it's going to come at a price. Everything comes at a price. So that's how I tie that part in. And you'll say, like in the beginning of the book, if you had the chance to read through it, I start out with magic behind the scenes, like little things like a glamour, like Sam Wu putting on a glamour so you see him as an older person. Like Eric weaving the magic of like the ley lines to tie that scumbag Brian Watterson shoes together, and like what's it called, the speed that you're Cecilia is like, wow, how did he get in the car already? It's like, that's who moves that fast? That's so crazy. Or maybe I just blinked, and then when you finally tie it all together, that's when you can unleash the beast. You know, that's how I found that I was able to tie it in. And it was a little bit difficult at first because I was writing, again, I write when I feel like writing. So I was writing badass battle scenes and writing romance scenes and not knowing how I was going to tie the two together. And then I just kind of sat down for a while until it clicked. And then I was like, all right, it's been a month. Let's go back. Now I'm ready to write this stuff, you know? But again, I never push myself to write because I don't want to be dissatisfied with what I write and I don't want it to feel rushed. I rushed the end of the original Maximus and I felt like it was so disappointing. Like I had someone like writing me screaming like in their capital letters, why did you do this to me? If you wanted me to read the second book, why didn't you just say so? And I was like, oh, like I gotta fix that. And so I took it as positive criticism, and I rewrote Maximus. And my God, that new ending is phenomenal. I'm so proud of it. But I hope that answered your question.
I think so. I think it did. So it seems like to me, for you, for your voice as an author, you like to write almost like, I don't want to say sporadic, but when you feel you have a good idea and you really want to get it out there, you sit down and you get it down on paper, on your computer. No matter how long it takes, you want to get that idea down. And then when you finish, you take a step back and you just let the idea sort of marry and stew. So for you, your voice is that authenticity, that it is almost that, that raw moment, which I think is very amazing. And also very curious, this is another two-part fan question. What's your favorite way to introduce conflict in your story? And how do you balance the action with emotional depth?
Oh, wow. That is a tough question. Because I just did it. I didn't really think about how I was going to do it. I just thought, this is who that scumbag is. This is something he's going to do. And this is how it's going to shape my character. And so I wrote it. There is definitely should be a trigger warning in Maximus about Brian fucking Watterson. I hate that guy.
I don't think I've ever had an author really just show like venom for one of their characters. That's actually pretty awesome.
I hate Brian Watterson. Just like Michael's a dick, Brian is just... I'm so glad that Evie and Cecilia beat the shit out of him. You know, it was just the most therapeutic scene to write. It just felt like justice has been served. You know, it's like, yeah, Evie, kick him in the crown jewels.
Would you say that's also kind of been like your difficult scene to write because you knew that this character was going to get comeuppance, but you didn't know how that they were going to get their punishment? Or was it easy for you? Because you know what he was going to do?
I'd been waiting for it, just needing to know how I was going to tie it in. Because like the thing about like predators, dude, they don't stop at one. They never learn their lesson. There's something like inherently wrong with them. And with this scumbag, it was just a matter of when.
Right.
And when he struck, they caught his ass and stopped him. And it just felt right. So I feel like I always knew how I wanted to do that. Cecilia is my most authentic character, by the way. She's not based off of anybody that I know. Right. So having to write that was a little bit difficult, building her character, really getting to know her. It's just, yeah. I wrote Cecilia as, what do I love in a woman? And I was like, she's got to be like, what are characteristics that I have that I would love to share with a partner? And I wrote that out there and I was like, she's got to be tough. She's got to be fierce. She's got to be like smart, but she's got to be human. She has to be human and she has to have some vulnerability. And that's when I decided, when I wrote her character, that she's going to be vulnerable. There was going to be a moment to show like, yes, she's smart. Yes, she's strong, but she's a human being. Right. And that's how I wrote that scene in there about Brian fucking Watterson.
All right. That's going to lead to the next set of questions, which I think these are really, really important. For you, how do you engage readers emotionally through your stories? And as an add-on to that, in your opinion, what makes a story's atmosphere truly gripping?
There has to be highs and lows. and they have to tie together. Um, that's There has to be a buildup. And when the build-up's there, there has to be like what comes next and how are we going to resolve this? I'm a very happy ending arc kind of person, but
Mhm.
Maximus doesn't end that way. Um, but but yeah, to build like the emotion of the characters, there has to be like connections, and there has to be
Right.
like, how am I going to make those connections? What shared interests and things are they going to like bond over? And for Cecilia and Evie, it was easy because Evie was a huge foodie and a huge workout like fiend. And Cecilia is that, you know, so
Mhm.
they bonded right from the start in the way that Eric and I bonded right from the start.
Right.
Um, and being able to create like, how are they going to meet Max and Eros? How are we going to make, you know, them come into the world of the fallen angels? And it was more so that Max knew who Cecilia was and what she had, and he needed to orchestrate a way to get it. And then what happens when she finds out that her meeting him was going to be orchestrated? You
Right.
know, she's going to feel like shit. What do you mean? Like, did you trick me into falling in love with you? You know, things like that. Those emotions had to be real. And again, that came with understanding my characters and
Right.
writing down those character bios. Like, it's crazy, and it is a lot of work, and it takes a long time to
Mhm.
do it. But I just recommend that like you spend a day on one person, just getting to know that person
Right.
and really writing out those things. Like, get to know them like you know yourself, and think about it like you're knowing a friend. Like,
Right.
and that's how I did it, and that's how I learned to tie things in and build up those scenes, because I knew who those characters were. I knew what their reactions would be to things, and I had an idea in my outline of what are the big like epic events that are going to happen in this book, and how will I tie these together. And so
Mhm.
using that roadmap and understanding my characters helped me build that climax.
Nice. And actually, that leads to the last two fan questions before we get to the final questions of this amazing interview, Christoph. So the last two fan questions actually going to make them a two-parter because they blend really well. So for you as an author, how do you ensure that your endings in all of your books feel satisfying? And probably the most difficult question to ask any author, how do you know when a story is truly finished?
That's tough. Um, I really feel like I needed to write down like my ending from the start, and like I knew how I wanted to end things for book one, and how I wanted to have a happy ending arc for book two. So I felt like you have to, that ending you need to decide on your own time, and you need to find a way to get there. I am not the kind of, because of how structured that I am, I'm not the kind of person that will write and write and write and write and write until I'm like, all right, I'm there. You know, I had
Right.
to know. And I got this from Ray, my friend Ray Muniz, who's also an author of the series The Impairment, Witness to Unsightly Truths. Yeah. Ray was like, dude, I knew how I was going to end it from the day one. I just knew it. I knew this is how I was going to start it. This is how I'm going to end it. And I was like, that's something that people do. Okay, that's something I'm gonna do. And I waited for that aha moment to click. Usually at like 3 a.m. You wake up. Dreams are wild because they're you know, this subconscious singing to you. You know, so I waited for my aha moment, and I wrote it down, and I said, okay, this is it. This is how it's gonna be.
I think it's always a very tough thing for authors just to really decide, A, if their ending is going to be the large payout for their readers because they made a commitment to this story, but also, especially if you're writing, let's say, a series of books and you're reaching the end and making that decision that it's finished, it's done. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent real quick to tie it in, almost like the Invincible comics. Invincible has a beginning and an end. Are there other stories that are interweaving or exploring other characters? Absolutely. The universe is big enough to explore side characters. But the main story of Invincible, Mark Grayson, is finished. And that's why fans love it because it has a beginning, it has the middle, and the ending is satisfying, and it closes out a really great story. Now, the final two questions, Christoph, are really, really important, and probably one of my favorites in this section. And we talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but I think as authors, regardless if you're hybrid, indie, or traditional, the one thing that is integral to grow, especially now in a digital age, is networking, building a team of not just readers, but also editors, artists, your street team. 20 years ago, that wasn't like the main thing. If you're going traditional, you had all that. But now going indie, that's all on you. You have to go through everybody. You have to vet. You have to see, okay, who has the experience, who has a good background, who has a large following. So ultimately, the question is this, Christoph. In your opinion, how important is it for aspiring authors to really begin getting ahead on the networking game?
It is the most important thing. You're going to start with a small indie team. You're going to start with people that don't have 1,000 followers to 8,000 followers, and you're not even going to get a message back from the bookstagrammer that you message with 50,000. You can send them your book, and they might not even open it. They might not show it on their thing, but it's a risk that you take to get yourself out there, and you have to be prepared mentally for rejection. You have to be prepared mentally for somebody not putting out what you thought that they were going to give you. Like expecting someone to like put out a bunch of posts and get one picture with like
Right.
a little thing with like a 4-star, not even telling you why they gave it to you, or a 3-star, just you have to be prepared for that. And you need to just keep trying and keep going until you get a rhythm and get those like I have this one amazing like bookstagrammer that supports me. Her name's Ramya. She goes by Mia, and she my God, that girl loves books. She loves reading, and she is supportive, and she shares ideas. She helped me with my ideas for what's it called? Formatting Michael, the special edition, and formatting the special edition for Maximus, like for free, dude. You're making friends on here. So when you are going out and doing this, be authentic, be yourself, and try to freaking make friends, because they're, even though it's business, these people at their core aren't doing it for money. They're doing it for passion. And you need to show them that you are authentic and that you care and that you respect them. And that's what you're doing. And yeah, when you get more followers, you can build that group, but do not throw away the friends that you made. So like, yeah, you're going to grow your following, and you are going to grow more books, and you're going to put out more arcs later on. And it's okay to put out more arcs later on. And I do this thing where I made sure to ask my readers for Max and Eros if they wanted to be part of the arc team for Michael, because Michael's not Maximus and Eros. They dedicated their time to Maximus and Eros. They didn't dedicate their time to Michael. And I'm not going to make that assumption that they did. So I made sure to ask each one of them individually, hey, I just wanted to ask you, would you be into doing this? And this is what I'm expecting of it. Like, be upfront. Be like, hey, I was just hoping that you can have a review out by August 18th. It premieres on the 15th. I just wanted to start getting the hype going at this time. This is my plan. Do you think you're down with it? And if they said, no, I really can't do it right now, that's fine. Do you still want me to send you a book? I'm okay if you review it later. Like, you have to like think about, like, these are real people. They have other commitments. They have other things in their lives going on. Just because you're putting in $2,000 of money to get your marketing going, like, that's your investment, but to them, they're doing it for free. Like, your investment is paying for the things to make the experience, and they're still doing it for free. And if you are paying for them, I mean, that's fantastic, but do you feel good about that? Probably not. I don't. I wouldn't feel good giving someone $1,000 to review my book,
That is true. That is very, very true, Christoph. And this ultimately leads to probably one of the biggest questions, the last question of this amazing interview. And it's a very loaded question, Christoph, so brace yourself. So I've been doing this show now for about 6, 7 years, and looking back, I've done out of, I think, 370 videos. I've had the opportunity to interview almost 140 plus authors from from a wide range, from debuting, aspiring, entering, indie, hybrid, traditional. I've learned a lot. And one of the main things I've learned in this industry as a fellow indie author is that there is no guarantee your book is going to be a success. And there are two roads to success as an author, and that is to be an author and to be known as an author. One is dedicated to the art, the other is dedicated to the business. And again, they lead to the same goal at the end, but it's the objectives that we have going into the publishing industry that really make or break us. Because this is not a get-rich-quick money scheme. It's not we could quit our day jobs and write a 120,000 plus word book and just publish it and expect all the royalties. That's not the case. Would we like that to be the case? Absolutely. Me, Christoph, and many other people would be writing to our heart's content. But sadly, that is not reality. And sometimes it's difficult for new authors to really understand the grind of being an author. And I don't think there's a lot of workshops. Well, I don't want to say that there aren't a lot of workshops, but I definitely think workshops talking about the realities of being an author. Because we have workshops on, crafting the world, blending fantasy and reality, understanding our audience, handling edits and revisions and stuff like that. But there's so many more to explore. So, Christoph, let's imagine this scenario. Let's say you have been called back to New York, and let's say you're giving a not press conference, but a workshop class with a festival in New York, a book festival in New York. And out of all the topics, you can only teach one to a class of aspiring authors or entering indie authors. Out of all the topics you want to talk to them about, for you, what is the one that you would want to share with them that would also be your word of advice, your piece of wisdom you would like to instill on the next generation of writers?
Understanding your characters, learning to build out who your characters are and truly understanding them. I'm not going to pretend like I know about marketing. I don't know shit about marketing, but I do feel very confident in the way that I write, and I love writing. So get to know your characters, become friends with them, learn to hate them if you have to. Fuck Brian Watterson, but get to know them, and teaching somebody else how to do that and have fun with it really, I truly believe, helps them become a better writer. I did it at the Writers Guild, and they loved it. And I feel like, everyone has published from there so far, whether it's self-publishing or not, but it was a success, and I feel good about that. So if there was one thing that I could teach them, it's how to get to know your characters, enjoying learning to know your characters, and just always remembering to write what you feel when you feel it, and never be afraid to go back and change things.
Absolutely, 100%. And with that, viewers and listeners, we conclude this amazing author interview here on the show. A huge thank you to Christoph for making his official debut on the channel. Hopefully this won't be the last time. As Christoph mentioned before, he is also working on a new series. So when that series is ready, we will definitely have him back. Christoph, thank you again so much for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. Now, where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out and connect? And where can people buy copies of Maximus, Michael, Eros, and your other books in the works?
Thank you again so much for having me, Gabriel. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show and talk about my work. You can find me on Instagram at Seraphic Novels. You can find me on TikTok at Seraphic Novels, which I don't know how to use TikTok, so don't go on there. You can find my books on Amazon, Maximus, The Key to Heaven, Eros, the Great Cataclysm, and you'll be able to pre-order Michael, the Fall from Grace on Kindle if you'd like, or wait for the debut to order the hardcover paperback. And you can also find my companion guides, a Hips and Hearts cookbook, and a Max Lounge Bartender's Guide on Amazon as well. They should all be linked together. And I just thank you for the opportunity again. And I really do hope if you guys do decide to go get my books, that you enjoy them. If you like food, if you like great cocktails, if you like fun times, and you like found family, I really think you would enjoy Maximus and Eros. And thank you again, Gabriel.
Awesome, Christoph. Awesome. I will link all those down below in the description of this video. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another amazing author interview here on the show. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with all the new episodes coming out later this week, as well as the weeks after. And as always, a huge thank you to Christoph for coming on the show. We wish him the very best. And until next time, this is the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill signing out. Wishing you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. And until next time, have a wonderful day.